to be alive. Hi everyone, this is Witnet Sprint Review for sprint number 39. This is the one of the most important parts of our development cycle, in which every 2 weeks we create a planning for what we will work during 2 weeks. And these cycles, which are part of the Agile methodology, they have worked great for us so far. And they start on a Monday and they finish on the Friday the next week. And so this is the sprint review, which is the meeting that we hold at the last day of the sprint. For this sprint, the sprint number 39, we defined a series of goals that are divided in 4 different areas. The first area in the node, we wanted to release a new upgrade of the testnet. In this case, the version 8.1 with many fixes and improvements that Luis will explain. And we wanted to start implementing the one last big feature that was missing before the mainnet release, which is BLS super signatures and super blocks, which will be explained later. And then in Sheikah, in the desktop wallet application that everyone will be able to use for creating their own Witnet wallet, and also for creating data requests in a visual way through a visual editor that will have templates and a marketplace for data requests and so on. We implemented the whole new editor view. We rebuilt the editor from scratch, and you will see. In the Ethereum area, we assessed how to integrate this BLS signatures feature in the block relay, which is the component that allows to verify Witnet transactions from Ethereum contracts. And also we wrote a report about the actions that we took as a consequence of the security audit that we got from the independent security auditors. Finally, in general terms, speaking about the protocol, we made some changes for improving the UX and for improving the quality of service of the network by removing a couple of parameters that were providing no value at this point, which were backup factor and extra rounds. So starting with Jeka, Tomas will explain in detail what we have been working on.
Thank you. The main goal in Sheikah during this sprint was implement the data request editor design we did in the previous sprint. And to achieve that, we start implementing the new stages of the editor from scratch. Then we worked on the new radar operator components, for instance, the select for the operators or the arguments of the operator, and we put all of this together in the new radon editor view. On the other hand, we had to write descriptions for all the radon operators to be able to show them in the next to the editor, and we also improved the view for no wallet found or wallet disconnected errors. And finally, we did some small UI fixes, such as improve the behavior of the address list or the remove exceeding white space in transaction listing.
Okay, in the node, in this sprint, we have released the testnet 8.1 with several features. So mainly, we added support for automated bug reporting using Sentry. This is helping the community get insights about bugs and potential optimizations. We also included improvements on the memory footprints related with collaterals and the secondary address in mainnet that we started in the last sprint. Moreover, we continue working in more improvements on memory footprints. Also, the new node stat-clean methods is included in this testnet, but Adam will show you more in the little demo at the end of that sprint review. So out of the new release, we implemented the creation, broadcasting, and forwarding of the super block structure with the BLS signatures. That this is needed for the bridge requirements that we talked before. This is needed for ensure that the security and the trustlessness properties of Witnet will be related to the bridge with other blockchains. But we explain more in detail in the part of the contracts. We also remove that the backup factor and extra rounds parameters in data requests. So now they are automatically calculated respect other parameters. So we are simplifying the process of creating a data request. Yeah, and finally, we improve the wallet synchronization with the node that's solving some fixes related to the difference in how the wallet and the nodes handle the common structures.
With respect to smart contracts, so we performed several assessments with regards of BLS validations in the what we call the active reputation set block relay. This block relay basically accepts signatures from active reputation set members, and once 2/3 are achieved, the block that they proposed is considered valid. So in this regard, we have 3 methods that we started implemented, which are aggregate public keys, mainly because we need to verify that each of the public keys belongs to the active reputation set of the last block. And then we need to aggregate them and see whether the aggregated signature is valid or not. We perform aggregated signatures because it is much more efficient than actually verifying each signature individually. Also, we have another method which is called validate BLS signature, because we need to validate that the signature provided belongs to or was signed by those active reputation set members. And finally, propose block. So basically, this active reputation set block relay contract, what it will use internally will be a library that performs all the elliptic curve arithmetic needed to verify these signatures. In the case of Ethereum, this will be the BN256 curve because it's the one subsidized by the EVM. So we created a library to operate in both G1 and G2 fields that perform both additions and multiplications in both fields, and additionally perform pairing checks, which is basically the key component to verify aggregated signatures.
And regarding the research, we did two main things. The first one is like in the previous sprint, we received the results of a security audit for all our smart contracts. What we did is like review this audit and try to mitigate those vulnerabilities that were still open. And we produce a security report about the actions we have taken. The idea is like with this report, the auditors can have a second round saying or stating if those vulnerabilities are considered now fixed or mitigated or assumed, and we can later publish all of these our reports and the report on GitHub. The second thing we did regarding research was to assess how we can prove different Merkle leaves against one single Merkle root in an efficient way. And this is what is called compact Merkle multiproofs. And as always, just to mention, like we are always open to feedback and discussions in our open channels in Discord, like for example, Dev General, in which we really appreciate if you have any suggestion or any idea how to deal with these these problems. And then, as a sprint summary, let's say we committed to 191 story points. And similar to the previous sprint, we were able to cope with 157. It was a really productive sprint because we were able to finish 23 issues. We only have 3 issues in our backlog that are minor fixes, mostly in Sheikah, and one discussion. And then we have 2 other issues with 21 story points. That is the assessment of BLS validations that is under review, and the BLS signature library, sorry, that is almost finished and it's waiting to be merged.
So big fortnight for comms and outreach. Phase 1 of the testnet incentive program is now finished. So a huge thank you to all the participants. We now have a more robust testnet, more tools, improved documentation, and obviously a growing community as well. We've distributed the 10,000 DAI this week, so please check your wallets for that. The top reward, the rewards went up to 1,500 DAI, so enjoy doing whatever you do with them. Just worth noting, participants for phase 1, I've sent you all an email to join phase 2. Unfortunately, because of US regulation, US persons are not permitted to join phase 2. So if you are having issues with that, please just get in touch with me. So phase 2, we have now launched it. It is here. We have a total of 30,000 DAI and 25 million mainnet WIT tokens up for grabs. So that's 1% of the total WIT supply. The distribution will happen over the next 9 months. So we will have a portion of it designated at mainnet launch, and then up till 6 months after mainnet. There is numerous ways to get involved, from running nodes, finding and reporting bugs, building and deploying dApps, writing articles, helping with community sports, spreading the word about Witnet, and all sorts of other stuff. Compared to phase 1, which was much more of a targeted phase, trying to get direct feedback and make sure that the testnet is as robust as possible. This is opening up it much more to the wider crypto community, ensuring that we stress test the network as much as possible and start spreading the word about Witnet in the coming months. You can sign up at testnet.witnet.io/join. Yeah.
So time for a demo. Give me a second. I need to bring up my console. Today we will be demoing the new CLI methods and some really cool things that you can do with your node right now. Meanwhile, we are waiting for the network reset for the phase 2 for start counting who mines more blocks and for rewarding those with mainnet tokens when the token generation event takes place. And but yeah, there are a couple of cool things you can do in the meantime. So okay, I need to share this. Okay. Bear with me. Okay. So I'm running right now. I'm running a node using Docker. For those who are already running a node, you already know what it is. But if you're not running a node, a Witnet node just yet, just go to docs.witnet.io. Then you can find a super easy tutorial on how to run a node using Docker. Which is a very useful tool for deploying services and software without having to think about dependencies or anything like that. You just need to run a single line command and you get it up and running. So once you have your own Witnet node running in your machine, you can check that it's running with Docker PS. You can see all the details of the machine of the service. In this case, you can see that this node has been running for 2 hours, and I have these ports and so on, and that the machine is called Witnet node. If you create the container using the command that we provide in the tutorial, your container will also be named Witnet node. So when we want to run commands inside this container, inside this Docker machine, what we need to do is Docker. I can maybe increase. Okay, font size. Docker exec, and then the name of the container. Witnet node. And then everything we put following that will be run inside the container. So what we want is to execute the Witnet command with some payloads, with some options. If we simply do Witnet, we can see like the entry point of Witnet, and we are offered help on what we can do. Okay, if you have at any point any doubt about some command of the Witnet tools, the Witnet node or the Witnet wallet, you can run the command without any options, and you are offered help. Or you can always write --help, and it shows the help. So we will look for the node help in this case, and as you can see, with Witnet node help, you can see a list of all the commands that are available, which are many at this point. For example, you can see all the blocks in your local blockchain. You can see many things, but right now I will focus on some new commands, some new options that we can see here that will be super useful for getting insights on whether your node is operating normally and whether it's proposing blocks and resolving data requests and so on. So in this case, I will try the node stats command. There's little more to do with it. You just enter like Witnet node stats, and you get these nice stats in which it will tell you how many blocks your node proposed, how many of them have been included in the blockchain. So how many blocks have been accepted by your peers and by the rest of the network. And also you get the stats about data request mining. How many times your node was eligible, how many times you participated, how many times you were rewarded, punished, and so on. So in this case, as I started running this node a couple of hours ago, it still hasn't got any assignments, let's say, and that's perfectly normal. It's only a matter of time that it starts to being assigned some requests, or that it builds a block, and from then it will start to build up its reputation, and you will start to get more assignments. So don't worry if during the first hours or even a couple of days you see 0 here. Don't worry about that. Maybe what I can do is look at a different node of mine. Okay. I will show you how it will look like once your node is up and running for a while. Same here. As you can see, I can monitor using this command. I can monitor how my node is performing. Okay. So for the sake of having relevant data, I will continue using this command instead of docker exec blah blah blah, instead of the one I was using, only for querying a node that has been running for more time, and it's my local node for development purposes and so on. So it will have more useful information, but in your case, just keep running it like this. Just stick to docker exec with the node, Witnet node, and the command. Okay, so things that are useful. You know that you can query your balance with get balance. You can query your reputation with get reputation. You can see what's your address. It's get address. You can see your testnet address and what your mainnet address will be if you keep your private key. We can even try to do something more advanced, like seeing what my UTXO are. So what are my tokens, in which transactions they are located, and whether those tokens are old enough for being used as collaterals when participating in data requests. So we can go and do get UTXO info. Okay, you can see the total number of coin units that you have, how many of them are bigger than the minimum collateral required, and how many of them are older than the minimum age, which in this testnet right now is 24 hours. But if we add the long dash long thing, what we get is much more detail on the specific token units that I have, and whether those can be spent right now or they are subject to a time lock. And we can also see here if it's ready for collateralization. You can see true, false, false. Okay, you get a lot more detail. Another thing that people really love watching is the everyone's reputation. Why not? How's the score? When I do get reputation, you can see that I get my reputation score for my address, but I can do dash all, and I can see every single node that has a non-neutral reputation, so has more than 0 reputation points, and you can see everyone here, and you can see how sometimes they go up, they go down, depending on how they are performing in the network, on whether they are simply lucky and get more data requests assigned to them, and so on. So yeah, you can try to find your own address here. Another cool thing would be, okay, let's send a data request using using our node. In the Witnet Trust repository, in the repository of the Witnet node software, you can find a folder called examples, where there are several examples in JSON files, and those can be used for sending requests that already have been built, and we know that they simply work. So in this case, I will show you, for example, one that queries the Bitcoin price. Okay, is this JSON file? So what I will do is sending that to my node. So if you have already mined a block, you will have some balance, and with that balance, you can spend it on. You can use part of that balance for making a data request, for sending a data request. In this case, I will do it with my own node. So it will be, as you saw, like this, but in your case will be in Docker, exec, blah, blah, blah. And then the command is raw, okay? Node raw. There's also a send command that allows you to send it when you have it in other format, but for this JSON format, it's the right command is raw. So I will send that, and I will get back the identifier of the transaction. So now what I can do is watching the state of that data request, and seeing how it's evolving over time, whether it's getting enough commitments, enough reveals, what the result is, and so on. So same as always, the method in this case is data request report. Remember that all of those commands, you can find them in the help with the -- help. And then if you want to know what arguments they receive, it's the same. In this case, it's saying that I need to use the hash of the data request transaction. So I will put the hash of the data request transaction here. And I can see that this is the report for this data request that was deployed by this address, which is me, and that hasn't been included in any block yet. So, okay, and now it hasn't been included in this block, and okay, and it's in commit stage. The data requests, every single data request needs to go through 3 different stages. One is commitment, the second one is reveal, and the third one is the tally. In commitment, as many nodes as I have requested, in this case, I think 10 of them will be retrieving the data and aggregating it and processing it in the way that I have requested. And then in the reveal phase, they need to publish those values, and in the tally phase, we take all the values and find the final value by doing the average or whatever you have decided when creating the request. In this case, it will be removing some outliers and then computing the average. So we can see that, okay. I actually queried only two nodes, okay, for simplicity. One cool thing that you can do in your console, there's a command called watch. Normally you use it with Core, and it runs a command over and over, so you can see in real time how things are working without having to run the same command again and again. So right now we have received the reveals. So both nodes are in consensus. They voted for exactly the same value, which they got from multiple price APIs. In this case, it's the price in dollars of Bitcoin, and yeah. So what is happening now is that it's in tally stage. So the next miner will take all the reveals, in this case, these two reveals, and apply the tally function on them as defined by the requester, by me. And I define that if what they need to do is just calculate the average, which we got here. So the request is finished, is resolved. And yeah, and if we were making this request from Ethereum instead from my console, I would right after get the result in my contract. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Remember, with just Witnet node, in the case of with Docker, just like this, you get all the commands. You can try, you can find, you can try all of them and discover by yourself a lot of interesting things. Like, yeah, I'm seeing like probably this is cool too. You can see your peers. With peers, you can see the connections that you have with other nodes. In this case, with this node, I only have outbound connections because it doesn't have a public IP because it's running at my home. But if you have a node at a VPS or somewhere with a public IP, you will also get inbound connections, which means that other nodes will be connecting to your node for downloading the blockchain, for broadcasting transactions, and so on. Another cool one is known peers, and this is the last one I want to show today. And with known peers, you can see all the addresses that your node has discovered in the network. And when it discovers a new potential peer, it tries to open a connection and do a handshake and check if we are running the compatible versions of the software. And if we are running compatible versions of the software and everything looks right, I will take this IP and this address. I will store it for later, just in case I need to open another connection because I lose some peer or whatever. So what you have is a list of addresses that your node has already tried, and make sure that they work, that those are reliable peers. So right now we can see that my node has discovered all of these peers. So your list doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same, but over time should look very, very similar. So that's a demo for the comments. But now that we are here, one more thing that Luis mentioned, which is that in the configuration file, this famous Witnet Token file that you can find inside the Docker container, and there's in the documentation, there's now an additional section inside the tutorial for running a node that explains how to inject a custom configuration file into the container. So in this file, we have some new stuff. In this case, it's this mint external address and mint external percentage. This new feature allows for configuring your node so that a share of the rewards that you get from mining, from creating new blocks in the network, you can automatically send those to an external address, an address that belongs to your wallet, for example, to your Shaker wallet. So you only need to uncomment this line, mint external address, and then enter the address where you want to send the tokens. You need to enter here, if you don't change the address, they will be sent to Luis. So be careful. And then you can configure different percentages. You can say whatever percentage you write here. In this case, I have 50, but I can say 100. I want to donate every single testnet with token that I mine. I want to donate it to my good friend, Luis. Okay, you can do that. You can enter anything from 1 to 100. Okay, so this is a cool feature that was requested many times by many different community members. So hey, people, keep proposing new features, because you really come with really interesting stuff, and the developers will be happy to implement whatever is useful for all the users. So that's the demo. Going back to the slides. Yeah. So time for question and answers. Time for questions. Oh, we got plenty.
So the first question from the hero is, how many signups have we had so far? As of today, the 29th of May, we've had just over 300 in the last few days. We're going to be doing a big marketing push in the next week to push this number up and to get the word out as far and wide as possible. The next question.
So Roberto Mazzanti asks if it makes sense to implement more than one node in the same server. Yeah, that's something that you can do. You need to tweak the Docker command a little bit for using a different port, because you cannot make both containers listen in the same public node, in the same public port, sorry. And yeah, that's something that you can do, but take into consideration that the protocol is designed for making it always more efficient and more advantageous to operate a single identity through a single node than many, because otherwise if you operate more nodes, it's true that you could get a better chance of being assigned some data request for resolving, but then your reputation is divided across multiple identities, and so for keeping your reputation high, it's important that you are always active and you keep resolving requests. So if you spread your reputation across many identities, it's more it's easier to lose that reputation. So actually maintaining high reputation score on many nodes is quite more challenging, and it's also more yeah. In general terms, our recommendation is to operate only one or only a few nodes if you want to really stress test the network, and that's something that that would be actually super useful in this stage, that we get a healthy amount of nodes, even if those are not independent from each other, because there are some assumptions that in testnet are different than in mainnet. That will not be a problem in mainnet, but it should be cool. So as you prefer, you can actually run as many as you want. Yeah. Oh, thank you, the hero, for asking some questions in the chat. Thank you for that. Yeah, and you were discussing about running nodes on Raspberry Pis. They actually, you know, this for the Raspberry Pis are bang for the buck, and you get pretty decent hardware for the price, and from the early days, we said that we wanted the software to be able to run on really commodity hardware, on really cheap hardware, so as not to create, so that we don't create barriers to entry, so that everyone can actually run a node in their computers and so on. And this is important not only because we think that this needs to be open to everyone, also because the more diverse and the more numerous the node operators are, the better, because some of the properties of the protocol are only make sense if you run them at scale, okay? And some assumptions regarding coordination between node operators and so on really are much stronger if you have a broader community of node operators. So this is important. Whether it runs okay or not, it's true that for example, with the previous release with the with testnet 8, we didn't check that it actually ran in the Raspberry Pi before making the release. Shame on us. And yeah, it was quite challenging to keep it running for a long time on limited on a computer with limited resources. But in general, yeah, with the latest optimizations and many more that are coming in the next weeks, it runs perfectly on any Raspberry Pi, and any modern Raspberry Pi, like the Pi 3B Plus or the 4B Plus, like this one here. And yeah. Yeah, a guide on how to install it on a Raspberry Pi will be made and published very soon. Some other questions? Okay, you know that as always, we are always happy to help. Just shoot us your questions on Telegram or on Discord. We are really excited about the community that is building around the Witnet protocol, and we know that we have to make a lot of effort to document everything and explain everything in layman terms, but we will be more than happy to answer your specific questions about any part of the protocol, or what the community plans are for the future of Witnet. So you know that we like to finish the every sprint review with some laughs, with some memes. So these were the memes for this sprint.
Just before we start that, Dan, we have one more question from Dan Norman.
Great.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. It's about the token being on exchanges and so on. So you know that Witnet is currently on testnet, so the testnet tokens are basically worthless. Those are toy tokens. The actual WIT tokens will exist only when we are on mainnet, and mainnet release will happen somewhere in the coming weeks or months. It really depends on how this phase 2 evolves, on whether we break a lot of things and we need to make some reconsiderations, or we need to re-implement some things, or there's some uncertainty there, but everything is starting to fit together, and everything is looking great for having a token generation event really soon. So please keep tuned. Once the token exists, then we can start thinking of how the token will be available to the users. But obviously, if you want Witnet tokens, you should start right now to operate a node, so that you get familiar with it, and so that from day one as the token generation event happens and the mainnet is released, you can start mining and minting your own Witnet tokens, which is basically the intended way for people to get a grab of those tokens. So for the memes. I'm guilty for one of the mechanical keyboards. Probably you have listened to my keys during this meeting. So this is everything from us today. Thanks for watching. I want to say a big hi to everyone who recently joined the community, who recently joined the phase 2 of the testnet program. And a big thanks for the participants of the phase 1 and for everyone in the community who have been so awesome with us so far. You guys are super supportive, super always willing to help and so on, and we love the culture that is being created in the community. As I said before, please, if you have any more questions, any more suggestions, any more hating, whatever, just post it on our Telegram, our Discord, and see you next sprint.